Everything was gone. 20 years of my life gone in a single night. I stood barefoot in my driveway at 3 in the morning wearing nothing but my pajamas, watching my house burn to the ground while my HOA president, Chloe Green, stood there filming it like she'd just won an award. She didn't call 911. She didn't try to help. She just stood there, phone raised, smiling faintly like she was capturing a victory. And the worst part, she'd been trying to destroy me long before the fire. You ever have that one neighbor, the kind who thinks HOA rules are divine law, carved into stone tablets and personally delivered by God? That's Chloe Green. 5'4" of pure suburban tyranny wrapped in a designer tracksuit and armed with a clipboard that might as well have been a weapon. I'm Daniel King. 45. Quiet guy, been living in Maplewood Heights for almost 20 years. I thought I'd seen everything people could do to each other in a courtroom, but I'd never seen evil wear yoga pants and carry a laser measurer. It all started over grass. 2.8 inches. That's it. I came outside one morning with my coffee and saw her crouching next to my mailbox with a contractor's grade laser measurer. She was muttering numbers under her breath like some sort of suburban Rain Man, then stood up and announced real loud, 2.8 inches. Mr. King. Regulation is 2.5. Then she took selfies. Selfies. With my lawn. Like she'd just discovered buried treasure. 3 days later, I get a certified letter official, HOA letterhead, her signature at the bottom. A $500 fine and $100 per day until I corrected the violation. My grass was apparently threatening the entire community's property values. So I went to the next HOA meeting to fight it, thinking logic might still mean something. Big mistake. The meeting was in this beige, soul-sucking community center, the kind of place that smells like stale coffee and false authority. Chloe sat at the front like she was chairing a Senate hearing, charts pie graphs, color-coded compliance rates. When I stood up to argue, she pulled out a thick folder labeled with my address. Photos of my trash cans, my fence, even scuff marks on my mailbox post. She'd been documenting me for months. And when I tried to reason with her, she gave me this smile, tight, frozen, predatory, and said, "Democracy means majority rules, Mr. King. You're outvoted." That's when I saw him, some guy in an expensive suit, shaking hands with Chloe. Blueprints on the table. My street highlighted in yellow. A week later, I learned who he was. Michael Ross, a developer who'd already bought 47 of the 48 homes on our block. Guess who was the holdout? Me. Suddenly, that ridiculous fine made sense. They weren't just trying to punish me, they were trying to force me out. Then came the photo. It was tucked inside the next certified packet. No note, just a picture of my house with a big red X drawn across it and 2 words scrawled underneath. Pay up. I remember staring at it, feeling this cold weight settle in my stomach. This wasn't about grass anymore. Someone wanted me gone, and Chloe Green was the one delivering the message. 2 days later, rumors started spreading in the neighborhood group chat. Anonymous posts about how my finances were in trouble, how the King family was facing foreclosure. All lies, but that's how these things work. Throw enough mud and some sticks. I'd walk outside and neighbors would slow their walks, pretending to check their phones while staring at me like I was contagious. Then one morning I tried to back out of my driveway to go to work and bam! Something slammed against the trunk. I looked in my mirror and there she was, Chloe, standing directly behind my car, arms folded, blocking my way. "You're not leaving until we settle this," she said loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. Before I could even respond, she turned to the onlookers who'd started gathering, people filming on their phones, and announced, "This is what happens when homeowners ignore the rules. This is why we need strong leadership." Then she called the police on me, claimed I was acting erratically. When the officers showed up, she played the victim, trembling hands and all, telling them she was worried about my mental state. They told me to calm down, take a few days off. I was furious, but what could I do? The more I fought, the crazier I looked. That day, I lost more than time. My boss called, said maybe I should take a leave of absence. Apparently, Chloe had already phoned HR out of concern. That woman managed to wreck my reputation in a single morning. But what happened next nearly killed me. The following week, I got in my car, turned the key, and something felt off. The brake pedal was soft, almost hollow. I pressed again, nothing. I was rolling downhill toward a busy intersection and my car wasn't stopping. Ahead, a school bus. To my right, morning traffic. To my left, a concrete wall. I was pumping that pedal like my life depended on it, and it did. Then I saw my neighbor Pete Parker in his pickup truck waving his arm out the window yelling something. He sped ahead and angled his truck so that when I hit, I'd hit his tailgate instead of the wall. The collision was small, but the sound, it was sickening. Pete jumped out, checked if I was okay. He looked under the car and said quietly, "Dan, someone cut your brake lines." That's when it hit me. Someone had just tried to kill me. Pete became my lifeline after that. He checked on me every day, brought groceries, helped with calls to the insurance company. He even watched out for my wife Linda, who was barely holding it together. I finally started to believe that maybe I wasn't alone in this fight. Then came the fire. It was late July, heavy thunder outside, power flickering. I was reading by flashlight when I smelled something off burning plastic. Then I heard this whoosh, like a grill lighting. By the time I opened our bedroom door, the hallway was glowing orange. Smoke thick as tar. I yelled for Linda, grabbed our emergency papers, and we ran. By the time we made it outside, the whole house was an inferno. Neighbors gathered on their lawns, filming, whispering. And then there she was. Chloe Green. Hair neat, clipboard in one hand, two-way radio in the other, whispering to people what to say to the firefighters. Not panicked, prepared. Like she'd rehearsed it. At sunrise, the fire inspector approached me holding a plastic evidence bag. Inside was a metal container covered in ash. "We found accelerant residue," he said. "Your fingerprints are on this." My fingerprints, on something I'd never seen. By noon, I was in handcuffs charged with arson and insurance fraud. They said I'd burned my own house down for money. They took me past this crowd, past Chloe, who put her hand on her chest like she was concerned. I'll never forget that smirk. I got out on bail a week later. We were broke, living in a cheap motel that smelled like cigarette smoke and despair. Linda was collapsing from stress, literally collapsing. And through all of it, Pete kept showing up with groceries saying, "We'll get through this, man." He was the only one who still seemed to believe in me. Until one night I saw his phone light up. A message from a contact labeled C. It said, "How's our boy holding up?" Still looking defeated. Our boy. When I asked him who that was, his face changed guilt, shame, exhaustion. Then he sat down and confessed everything. Chloe had leverage over him. Custody of his daughter. She'd threatened to destroy his life if he didn't cooperate. Pete was the one who'd tampered with my brakes, planted evidence in my basement, even helped start the fire. The day he saved me was part of the plan to earn my trust so he could finish setting me up. I felt the floor fall out from under me. I'd trusted him. He'd destroyed me, but his confession changed everything. Pete turned himself in, handed over every text, every email, every bank transfer between Chloe and her developer partner. There were even messages where she called me the final obstacle. When the police arrested her, she finally learned who I really was. See, I'd never told anyone in the neighborhood what I did for a living. But Chloe found out the hard way that the quiet guy with the overgrown lawn was a sitting county judge with 15 years on the bench. Watching her walk into that courtroom in handcuffs was surreal. Designer suit traded for an orange jumpsuit. The prosecutor laid out everything video footage of her near my house the night of the fire, emails about final obstacle removal payments from the developer Pete's signed confession. The moment the judge announced that the victim in the case was a sitting member of the county court system, you could see it hit her. Confusion, then realization, then pure panic. She wasn't just facing arson charges anymore. She was facing federal charges for conspiracy witness intimidation and attempted murder of a public official. The courtroom went silent when her lawyer begged for leniency, claiming she was just passionate about community standards. The prosecutor's response was brutal. Passion doesn't explain cut brake lines or accelerant under a family's bedroom. She took a plea deal, 10 years in state prison, 7 before parole, plus nearly $500,000 in restitution. At sentencing, I stood up and faced her. My voice shook, but I meant every word. You didn't just burn lumber and drywall. You burned 20 years of memories, photos, heirlooms, the peace we built in our own home. You weaponized an HOA to destroy people's lives, and for what? A. Payday. For once, she didn't speak. No smug smile, no clipboard. Just a hollow stare. The judge handed down her sentence cold and clear. 10 years, no parole until 7. Lifetime ban from any HOA leadership. As the deputies led her away, she looked up at me one last time. No words, just realization. She'd finally understood she'd picked the wrong neighbor. And as I walked out of that courtroom, I didn't feel triumph, just peace. Because sometimes justice doesn't come fast, it comes when the truth finally burns brighter than the fire that tried to destroy you.